Let's dive in. What we've got today is, well, it's a little different. Feels kind of like we've stumbled upon someone's personal reflections, maybe excerpts from a private journal they shared online.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. These entries, they seem to cover about a year, and they touch on some, pretty significant life changes, uh, deep memories, quiet observations. It really feels like a snapshot of someone navigating a period of intense transition.
Right. So our mission, our deep dive today is basically to sift through these writings. We want to pull out the core themes, the threads connecting them, find those powerful insights that might be hiding in the everyday details, and maybe see what they tell us about getting through big endings, finding resilience, and just paying attention.
Paying attention to life unfolding. Yeah. So the central question for you listening in is, what can we learn? What can we take away from one person's journey through change, seen in things like irises blooming, or a phone call from an aging dad, or even just finding an old keychain?
Exactly. Let's get into it. So, right off the bat, a really strong theme is endings. Specifically, there is a major divorce that comes up again and again.
Yeah, it's central. And the writing about it is incredibly raw. There's this bit from February 13th where it initially felt like dying. That's powerful.
Wow.
But then there's this important shift in thinking, a realization, maybe, that it's not death, but a divorce from something familiar. Even if it wasn't perfect or happy, it was ours, what you came home to.
That distinction changes everything, doesn't it? About how you process the loss.
Completely. And it wasn't like a clean break either. That seems really key here. The source mentions the continued exposure, having to look at it across the courtroom on the TV, read its emails, and fume.
Right. So it's not just processing something past, it's dealing with it actively, painfully in the present.
Exactly. And what's really interesting in that same February entry is this move away from just feeling like a victim. There's this surprising admission of complicity. How the writer acknowledges their own role, not paying attention, not giving compliments, not respecting the other person.
That adds a whole other layer. It's not just about cruelty received, but a shared dynamic. Their contribution to it ending.
It makes it much more complex, much more human, I think.
Yeah. And tied into this ending are these really specific memories, like the irises.
Ah, yes, the irises. Taken from the old townhouse in Herndon. They're like this living link, aren't they? A tangible piece of the past relationship that's still bringing beauty now.
It's fascinating how memory works in these situations, too. The writer notes they can't even remember the street name of that townhouse, which they find kind of funny.
Right, considering how much time was spent there in that basement apartment with the red bedding.
But other details are crystal clear.
Yeah, the way you made salad or coffee or chicken on the grill.
The small things, the mundane rituals of care and shared life, those stick.
It really shows how memory filters, doesn't it? Clinging to sensory details, small acts, even when the bigger picture fades.
And there's also this sense of distance, gaining perspective over time.
Definitely. That April entry mentions feeling like they've graduated from that really hard time, 4 years having passed.
That space allows for a different kind of looking back.
Which makes that story from Talk of the Town so potent.
The unexpected run-in.
Yeah, seeing the ex-spouse.
Yeah.
At Home Depot. In Herndon, of all places, after all that time, after feeling graduated.
Oh, wow. Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it.
And the details are just so sharp, gaunt and gray, carrying deck coverings.
And neither one acknowledging the other, just passing.
Yeah. And then this moment of reflection afterwards, wondering who does those little domestic things now. Stuck in the fridge, making salads, prepping meat for the grill. And it leads to this big realization that feeling the divorce made them the talk of the town, probably just in their own head.
Right. Everyone else is just
living their lives, buying mulch, tending gardens, focus on their own ordinary stuff.
That's such a powerful insight. How our internal drama feels huge, but the world just keeps turning with its everyday tasks.
Our internal focus rarely matches the external reality.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How do we process our own big endings? What details stick with us? Which ones fade? And how often is our idea of how others see us totally different from their actual thoughts, focused on their own lives?
It's a good reminder that our internal intensity isn't always shared externally.
Okay, so moving on from those personal endings, those echoes of the past, let's look at how these entries reflect on family, the longer arcs of relationships, and just time passing.
Yeah, there's a real focus on connections, especially with the writer's father. That piece, Dad Math, describes this ritual.
The weekly Sunday phone calls.
Yeah.
From the 93-year-old dad in Florida.
Yes. And the description leading up to the call is so specific, almost ritualistic. Grocery shopping, making dinner with his stepmom married over 40 years. Then a sigh, announcing an app, taking out hearing aids. Then the call.
Wow, quite the sequence. A very precise prelude.
And the calls themselves sound pretty consistent, too. Talking about meatballs his mother Basha used to make. Fareed Zakaria, the stock market, NVIDIA.
But what's really striking is the description of the conversations, limitations.
Exactly. It reveals something deeper about their dynamic. Because of the hearing loss, he won't hear my responses. And the writer adds, he knows there's but much I'll share with him anyway since the divorce.
So there's an emotional distance there, too. Or maybe a long-standing pattern, less vulnerability.
Seems like it. And the father has his own narrative about the divorce. He thinks the writer's waiting to hear me say that I'm gay.
Oh.
But the writer's reality is, simpler. Maybe harder for the dad to accept. It ended because it was over, the same as it did between him and my mom.
That really highlights how different family members can hold totally different stories about the same events, and how hard it can be to share our truth sometimes.
Yeah. And that Dad Math piece ends with this incredibly poignant calculation.
Right, the how many calls left bit.
100, 150 maybe, for both incredibly lucky.
Oof. That hits hard.
It puts the value of that seemingly ordinary weekly call into such stark relief, doesn't it?
Makes you cherish the routine.
And leads to that resolution. Sit by the phone the next Sunday. It shows how thinking about finite time can elevate the everyday connections.
Definitely brings home the march of time. And that theme pops up elsewhere too, right? Childhood memories overlaid on the present.
Yes, like waking up in the old childhood bedroom on their 58th birthday. That's in the unburned side.
Stepping back into a time capsule.
Totally. The room itself holds layers of history model horses. Calling friends about outfits. Blasting Journey for a Neighbor back in '82. It's like confronting your past self in the actual space where that self lived.
But things are different now, too, even with parents.
Yeah, like the mother making special birthday pancakes. Unexpected.
Even if they were scorched on one side.
Right. A small detail. But it shows how even those long-term relationships still evolve and surprise you.
And time changes friendships, too. There's that bit in The Need for a Key.
Oh, yeah. The friend reminiscing about their kids being tiny in 2T Buffalo plaid.
Contrasted with now when the kids buy their own clothes.
And traditions shift. The friend is hosting the writer's kids for brunch, but the writer won't be there.
It's not just kids growing up. It's seeing how time reshapes the whole network of connections and rituals.
And until next Wednesday, adds another angle. Remembering being young, leaning against a tree, feeling lonely, the world seeming small.
Contrasting that vulnerability with later changes, physical changes, and maybe a hardening that comes with age.
Yeah, like time builds up defenses, maybe, against that earlier vulnerability, or maybe just resilience.
So connecting this all back, these writings really show how family ties evolve, how time reveals different parts of ourselves and our relationships, and how memory is this bridge sometimes strong, sometimes shaky between who we were and who we are now.
Yeah, it makes you think. How do you hold on to those powerful memories while still navigating the present and, the future?
Okay, so we've explored endings, time, family. Let's pivot now to resilience, finding beauty, personal growth, often through these really vivid metaphors that pop up.
The irises are a good starting point. From the irises.
Beautiful, yes, but short-lived. Forgotten most of the year, then they just reappear abundantly.
So transient beauty, memory.
But the insight maybe is about the cycle itself. That beauty and renewal keep happening tied to place and memory, even when personal life is chaotic. Life just persists quietly.
I like that. And then there's that image from blackberries, blueberries, and figs.
Oh, yeah. Life being dense and packed with small seeds.
Which can bloom or get stuck between your teeth.
Right. Annoying, uncomfortable. But the insight there is about choice. You can focus on the discomfort, the seed stuck in your teeth, or you can take a bite and savor the sweetness of the fruit, just for today.
So actively choosing to find the good in the moment, despite difficulties.
Exactly. A conscious act of appreciation.
And then there's the hawk. That's a really powerful one. Oh, the red-tailed hawk story. Yeah, that's incredibly vivid. Hitting the glass door, stunned. But then it gathers itself, shakes it off, and launches back into the wind, finding a safer place to land.
It's such a clear metaphor, isn't it, for overcoming a setback?
More than just overcoming. It's not just bouncing back. It's like learning from it, adjusting, finding a better, safer way forward, resilience as adaptation.
And speaking of finding the good, the scorched pancakes.
Yes, from the unburned side. Such a simple thing, but the wisdom extracted is profound. The secret to happiness is not to deny that the burns exist, but to choose to enjoy what's on the unburned side.
That feels like a core takeaway. Happiness isn't perfection. It's accepting the flaws, the burns, and deliberately focusing on what's still whole, still good.
Cherishing the undamaged parts of life and ourselves.
Which connects really well to that whole series of metaphors around keys, locks, doors.
Right, and the need for a key in the poem Regain. It starts subtly.
In the thrift store, needing a key, not a lock. Just a little moment, but feels significant.
It hints at an internal shift, doesn't it? And Regained, it just lays it all out. This keychain filled with keys representing secrets and my shame.
Used for keeping doors locked, keeping safe, guarding things, holding tight, not giving, not taking.
It paints such a clear picture of a defended self, locked down.
But what does that locking down prevent, ultimately, besides perceived harm?
Connection, maybe. Vulnerability, real freedom.
Exactly. And then the poem describes this turning point. Hearing a voice, inner guide, angel, whatever.
Offering a choice. Stay locked and safe, or risk opening up. Open up to light.
The call to action is huge. Unlock everything, throw away the keys.
Let others inside. It sounds terrifying.
Seriously, throwing away all your defenses.
It's a massive leap into vulnerability. But the result described is transformative. Now, the keychain has nothing but my name, no keys to dangle, I have no secrets and no shame.
What once was lost, regained.
The insight being that real freedom, real self-acceptance might actually come from dropping those defenses, confronting the shame, the secrets, allowing yourself to be seen.
Losing the lockdown self to regain the open, vulnerable one.
Yeah. And maybe we can loop back finally to that very raw description of physical aging.
From February 13th, thinning hair, loss of flesh, receding parts, flaky skin, the feeling of disappearing.
It's stark. It's about physical vulnerability, unavoidable change.
But connecting it to these other themes, endings being stripped down, unlocking.
Maybe those physical changes, that literal disappearing of the familiar form. Maybe that's another kind of unlocking, revealing the core self underneath. Another way of finding and accepting the unburned side, the enduring self, despite the physical burns of time.
That's an interesting way to look at it, embracing the changes as part of the revealing process.
It really makes you, the listener, think. How do you find the unburned side when things are tough, imperfect, changing?
What does being truly open, truly unlocked mean in your own life? And how do we navigate our own body's changes, our sense of self shifting over time with acceptance?
So yeah, we've journeyed through these reflections, from the pain of endings through family complexities and time to these powerful ideas of resilience, growth, vulnerability.
And it seems clear, looking at these sources, even when things are incredibly difficult, loss, aging, change, there are still these moments of sweetness, of beauty, of realization, like the iris is coming back, or really tasting a piece of fruit, or seeing that unburned side.
They're always there if we pay attention.
So thinking about that whole journey described in the writings, from needing a lock to needing a key, from seeing only the burns to enjoying the unburned side, it leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. What are you still keeping locked away? And what might you actually gain by finding the key?